Hi world, it's Keely and I'm back for another video. This is going to be my August wrap up. Now I have a list of things to talk through for August, so I figured let's just dive right in. Let's start with how many books I read in August. I was able to finish 14 books in August, which is pretty amazing considering I've had months throughout the year where I've read like one book or two books. So definitely in August, ramped back up with my reading, which is amazing. Let's just talk through all of those books in case that's all that you care about, and then I can get into the other stuff later. Now, the first book that I finished in August was Dreadful Company, which is the second book in the Greta Helsing series by Vivian Shaw. I absolutely love this series. I was doing a reread of, well, kind of a reread of it through July into August. I had read the first book, Strange Practice, when it came out in like 2014-ish, and I really loved it, but then I never continued on as other books were coming out. And in July, I was really thinking like, I just want something cozy because I'm taking a break right now from the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, not because like I hate it or anything. I think it's a lot of fun, but the next book doesn't come out until sometime next year, and I am up to book 6, and so I didn't want to read like back to back 6, 7 and then have to wait for forever for book 8. So I finished book 5 and was like, okay, I need something else to read. So in July I reread the first book, and the Greta Helsing series is super cute. It's very cozy. It is about Greta Helsing, who is the great granddaughter of Van Helsing, and she is, I can't remember if her entire family or if it started with her dad, where instead of killing vampires, they became a doctor to help vampires and to help other monsters. So you're following Greta. It takes place in London, and you meet all of her friends, which are different monsters. She runs a clinic for monsters that they have to hide from the general public because the general public doesn't know that monsters exist, and so all of what she does is like very like hidden. It's underground. It's super duper fun. And in the first book, you're following Greta and some of her friends as they're realizing that there is kind of like this impromptu religious cult that came out and is trying to kill all of the monsters. And some of the stuff from book 1 goes into book 2. Most of the characters are the same in each book, with just some additional ones based on the context. But yeah, in August, the very first book that I finished was the second book in the series, which I thought was great. After that, I read Sick Houses by Layla Taylor. This one was incredible. This one is a non-fiction about the haunted houses that we love to enjoy and hate in horror movies, and it really focused on different types of buildings as haunted houses. So like the first section is all about haunted houses and why those are very scary for the United States, like for the public, and then it moves into like haunted hotels and witch houses and doll houses. It was wonderful. I saw there's another book coming out, I think next year, that's going to also talk about stuff about haunted houses, kind of the same vibe. So I'm very interested in that one too. Like, is that going to take a different perspective from this one? Because this one is very much from a like social lens, like class issues and you know, who gets to enjoy different haunted houses and why they are scary to different groups of people in society. And I just thought this was wonderful. So I really enjoyed this one. I have that other one on my list to get to next year when it comes out to compare. I will report back. After that, the third book that I finished was the third Greta Helsing book. That one was called Grave Importance. And again, same type of thing, same characters. A new issue has popped up in the world, and Greta and her friends have to uncover who is causing it, how do they survive, is the world gonna end? It was very dramatic. I really enjoyed it. All of those I have as Kindle versions, so some of them I read on my Kindle that I just owned, and other ones I got from the library. The next book that I finished after that was book 9 in the Enola Holmes series by Nancy Springer. This one is Enola Holmes and the Mark of the Mongoose. They're just super duper fun, middle grade, about Enola, who is the little sister of Sherlock and Mycroft, and she has decided that she also wants to be like a detective. I think she calls herself a Purgatorian, and trying to establish her role in society when her brothers are very much like, no, you're a woman, you have to do womanly things, and she's like, screw you guys, by the way, I'm 14. It's just super duper fun. Very, very cozy series. I'm having a bomb-ass time reading them. I'm so happy that another one comes out in a couple months, and I will get that one and read that one too. This was a lot of fun. After that, I read the fourth and final full-length book in the Greta Helsing series, which was Strange New World, and nothing new, really. It's the exact same set of characters into book 4 about even more stuff happening with monsters and with Greta and her friends. And I gotta say, I'm not thrilled with how the series ended because it very much felt like more could be written. So I don't know if Vivian Shaw is planning on doing like a spin-off series of other characters. I think that would be amazing and I would absolutely read them. But as of right now, that was the fourth and final book, and I don't think any others have been announced. It was, the fourth book was read, like the blurb was like the final book. So I don't know. I'm kind of bummed about that, but that's okay. The next book that I finished after that was actually a novella in the Greta Helsing world, which I should have read as book 3.5, but I accidentally thought it was book 4.5. So as I was reading the fourth book, I was like, why are they referencing stuff that happened in the novella if it doesn't, like, if it's not supposed to read it yet? No, I should have read it first. I really, really loved this novella. It was called Bitter Waters, and it is about a little girl that gets turned into a vampire, and then they decide to, like, rescue her, like Greta and her friends rescue her and bring her into their community of monsters, and they're teaching her about what happened to her and how she will live now as a vampire, while also trying to uncover who turned a little girl into a vampire, because in this universe it's like not good if you do that. It's supposed to be very much like a consensual thing, and little kids obviously can't consent to being turned into vampires, so they have to uncover what happens there. I thought it was super cute. I really, really loved that one. I will say that there were some issues with that series overall now that I have finished it. Really, really strong first book, and then the rest of the books were kind of like good but not as strong. There were definitely times where it was like so much buildup, and then I was like, that's it? Like, you're not gonna fully flesh out like what's happening. You can see Zoe, she just moved. I just felt a little bit like, didn't love it, but I did really enjoy that series overall. The next book I read after that was another nonfiction. This one is Witchcraft: A History in 13 Trials by Marian Gibson. This one is what it sounds like. It looks at the history of witch trials throughout the world, starting with the Protestant Reformation up until modern times, and each chapter is a different person that was tried or accused of witchcraft, starting from like the very, very beginning. This talks a lot about James I and his role in perpetuating all of the bullshit that happened with witches. Talks about the author of the Malleus Maleficarum and how he was basically spurned by a local woman that he wanted to sleep with, and she said no, so he accused her of witchcraft, and then he was run out of town, and then he wrote the Malleus Maleficarum, and it's like, bro. So it was really, really good. Really, really frustrating and difficult to read at times, to hear about the horrific things that society has done to women and queer people, but I really enjoyed this one. Then I finished a trilogy on my series list. So in August, I created this list. Well, I didn't create the list in August. I've had the list, but I updated it in August, and I started working on finishing out some series. And so one that I had been reading for the last few years, even though it's only 3 books, is the Kingston Cycle by C.L. Polk. So I read the third and final book, which was Soul Star. This one was so fun. I loved the first book, Witchmark. I really enjoyed the second book, which was Storm Song, and then the third book was Soul Star. This is about witches and magicians, and in the first book you're following Miles, who is he was a soldier and he hides part of himself, which is that he has magic, but someone comes to his clinic, because he works as a doctor, someone comes to his clinic, and he's forced to use his magic when he doesn't want to, and then he has to try to uncover like who is committing murders, and there's a lot of like politics and societal issues, and it was just really fun. Really, really love this trilogy. Super bummed that it's over, but I really enjoyed it. After that, the next nonfiction that I finished was this one, which is Sandi Toksvig's memoir, Between the Stops. And Sandi Toksvig is a British comedian. She hosts QI. She was a co-host of British Bake Off for a couple years with Noel Fielding. She's written a ton of books. She does a lot of work for dyslexia and queer communities, and she's just super fascinating. So this is her memoir, but it's not like a very linear memoir. She writes it from the perspective of being someone that rides the London Red Bus and how that helps her feel more connected to her communities and where she lives. So she talks a lot about the street names and how lots of street names in her town and everywhere are named after men, but not the women that have done incredible things, not people of color that have done incredible things, or queer people. She talks a lot about her career throughout the years. There's some sections in here about her time on Bake Off and her time working on other projects and the ways that society really let her down as a queer person. When she was in college in the 70s, they found out that she was lesbian, and she was almost kicked out of school because of it, and it was just really, really heartbreaking at times. It has a very, very cozy ending, which is nice, and I just really loved it. I have another one of her books on my Kindle that I really want to get to, but I thought this one was lovely. After that, I finished another series, or well, trilogy, even though I didn't really. I read Foxglove by Adeline Grace, which is the second book in the Belladonna trilogy. So the first book is Belladonna. You're following Signa in the first book, who has come into a lot of money, or like will have a lot of money when she reaches a certain age, I think. But everyone in her life dies, basically, and she has basically been like bounced from caregiver to caregiver throughout her life, and people keep dying, and so now there's a lot of like suspicion around her and her role in that. People think she's weird, people think she's haunted, or that she's cursed, or that she's a witch. And so in the first book, you're really following her as she's trying to figure out like what's going on with herself, why do people keep dying, and she goes to live with her uncle and cousins, and her aunt has just died in mysterious circumstances, so she's helping to figure out what happened there. Her uncle is really not dealing with grief very well, and her one cousin is now dying in a very similar manner to the wife, so they're trying to figure out what's happening. And it's just like, it's like fantasy, it's spooky, it's fun, it's romance, it's ridiculous. I really loved the first one, so I immediately went out and bought the second one and then didn't read it. So I wanted to finally read this one, and I did, and I really enjoyed it. This continues on basically where the first one left off. This picks right up. Deals with Signa as a main character, but you're really focusing more on her cousin in this one. And book 3 is called Wisteria. That's the third and final book, I think, of the trilogy. I think it's just a trilogy. And I don't want to read that one because it's about her cousin and it's about a different character, and I don't care about them. Respectfully, I don't care. So I am just going to count that as a finished series for me, even though I'm not planning on reading the other books. I didn't actually finish it, but that counts. Then I read this one, which is a middle grade. This one is called The Bellwoods Game by Celia Crampion. This one was adorable. It was super cute, very, very cozy. So you're following a little girl named Bailey. Is that her name? Yes, Bailey, and she is a 6th grader at school, and her friends have kind of turned on her, and you're not really sure what's going on, but people are bullying her. They're very mean to her. She lives with her grandmother and her parents, and it's coming up to Halloween, and everyone is preparing to play the Bellwoods Game. And the Bellwoods Game is this historical game from their town. It's very like urban legendy, where every year 3 6th graders go into the woods, the Bellwoods, and they try to make it to the other side of the woods where there is this giant bell. Ring the bell, and if you ring the bell, the ghost of Abigail Snook, who was a girl that died in the woods decades ago, will leave the town alone for another year. And Bailey is getting ready to participate in the game and is also dealing with some family stuff, and it was super cute. I just really, really loved this one. I liked how it wrapped up. I thought it was really cute. We'll definitely want to read more from this author if they have written any other spooky books, because I thought it was wonderful. After that, I read another one from the library on my Kindle. I read the 3rd book in the Amari and the Night Brothers series, which was Amari and the Despicable Wonders by B.B. Alston. This one, I am now caught up on this series. The 4th book hasn't come out yet, and this one is a middle grade series about magic. In the 1st book, you're following Amari, who is a little girl, and her brother has gone missing, and some people think her brother is dead. They just assume that because they're black, that he has overdosed or gotten himself involved in criminal activity, but Amari knows better than that, and she knows that her brother is alive and that something happened to him. She just needs to figure out what. In the 1st book, she goes into his room, and I think it's like in his closet, she finds a suitcase that is like ticking. I want to say it's ticking. I can't remember why I think that, but I think it was ticking. And basically in the suitcase, she finds like an invitation to this magic school, and she goes to the magic school and then realizes that like there's this whole other world out there that she didn't know about, and you're really just following Amari and her friends, like as she's making new friends and keeping friends from home. Super duper cute, really, really fun. I love Amari. I love how willing she is to engage in like hard conversations and not just take what the adults are saying as fact and be like, no, I know that's not true. That's not my life experience. I'm going to push back on that. And I just think it's wonderful. I will say the third book, I don't think was as strong as the first two books. The third book, Amari just read very, very young compared to the other books, which is fine because I think she's like 12. Like, of course she's going to read young, but she felt more stubborn in the third book than in other books, and I don't know why it felt that way to me. I just don't remember having kind of the same reaction to Amari at different points where I was like, oh my god, like just go with it, like whatever. So maybe that's just a me thing, but I didn't think the third book was necessarily as strong as the first two books. But I still think it's super cute overall, and I will absolutely be reading the fourth book when it comes out. Then the next book that I finished after that was... Oh, I did not write it down. I didn't write it down, but at some point in all of that, I reread A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. This is the first book in the Scholomance trilogy, and this one is about this girl, Galadriel. I think her name's Galadriel, and her mom is a weirdo, and so that's why she was named Galadriel. But in this universe, if you have magic, you go to this magic school, and there are no teachers. You just basically have to survive and kill the monsters that are trying to kill you, and then graduate and go off and try to live in the world. It was wonderful. I really, really loved it. So this was a reread so that I could read the second book, The Last Graduate, which I did start because I got the third book from the library. This is a trilogy that I started when the first one came out and then never continued on with, so I'm trying to finish this one up. So I did a reread of the first one, and I am now reading the second one. Let me quick add that to my list. So I actually finished 15 books. I thought it was 14, but I didn't write that one down. So 15. After that one, then I read Chronicles of Weatherwhy, The Age of Enchantment by Anna James. This is the start to a new middle grade series by this author, and it was super adorable. I really, really enjoyed this one. Weatherwhy is this world where everyone has magic, but different levels. Some people have magic based on the seasons, like the majority of people have magic based on the seasons, so like fall people, spring people, winter people, summer people. You're following a set of twins, Juniper and Rafferty. Rafferty has spring magic, but Juniper is an enchanter, which means she has magic for all 4 seasons, and enchanters are sent to this school to train as an enchanter, but society kind of doesn't like enchanters because why do they get to have all the magic while other people don't? Everyone has a certain level of magic, but enchanters have the most, and so there's like kind of this breakdown, there's this divide in society because of that. You are following Juniper as she's at school, and then you're following Rafferty as he is not at school without his twin for the first time, and it's really told from like, it's the same vibe as The Princess Bride, where there's like a grandfather telling his grandchildren the story of Juniper and Rafferty, and at the end you figure out who the grandfather is, and I just thought it was so cute. I loved this one so much. This is like the ultimate cozy fantasy because the kids are taken seriously, the adults apologize for things that they've done wrong, they empower the children to choose what they want to do. They even tell Juniper, like, you have the magic, so you will typically go to the enchanter school, but we're not going to force you to. If you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here. You can stay at your family's bookbindery and live with them. It was just lovely. I loved it so much. I love when the adults actually listen to what the kids have to say and they keep them involved in everything that's happening. Like, their lives are being impacted by some big things, and instead of the adults being like, no, we'll handle it, they're like, can you help? Like, you're living it, can you help? So I just thought it was really wonderful. I thought this was so great, and I will definitely read the next one whenever it comes out. And the final book that I finished in August was this one, which is a nonfiction. It's A Haunted History of Invisible Women, True Stories of America's Ghosts by Leanna Renee Heber and Andrea Janes. This one looks at stereotypes and tropes of women as ghosts throughout history. It tells the story of some of the real life women that then became kind of urban legends, and you know what actually happened to them in history, and then how we perpetuate stereotypes and stuff about women. Talks a lot about how women and queer people and people of color are more likely to engage in spiritual practices in the paranormal, but why, if you look at like ghost hunting shows, it's all men. And so it talks a lot about society and the ways that we perpetuate bullshit, and I just thought it was lovely. I thought it was really, really fun. I really enjoyed it. These authors have another scary book coming out, or spooky book coming out in the next few months, so I will definitely be getting that one and reading it as well. But I'm very happy that I read this one. In August, I purchased a couple books. Well, technically, actually, that one I bought yesterday, which was the first, so that one doesn't count. So in August, I purchased a couple books, but I didn't really count them towards my like books that I actually fully read. So one of them that I bought was this one, which is Stones and Bones of New England, A Guide to Unusual, Historic, and Otherwise Notable Cemeteries by Lisa Rogach, revised by Ray Bendici. This one I bought as like a travel book because every fall my husband and I go to New England, specifically Connecticut, and so I wanted to have a book that has like different grave sites that you can visit and like the story behind them. This one is not one that I was like, oh, I'm gonna sit here and read the whole thing. No, I read the section for the area of Connecticut that we're going to, and then I'm gonna take this with me when we go because there's a section in the back that's common abbreviations on gravestones for New England, for like the old ones, and then also common symbols on gravestones. I thought this would be really fun to have because that's something that I do whenever we go to New England in the fall, is I look for like the grave sites that are in the area, and I go and walk through and read the gravestones and appreciate the architecture and how peaceful it is. So I thought that one would be fun to have. Then I also bought this one, which is like a coffee table book. So this one was referenced in Sick Houses by Layla Taylor, and I was like, well, obviously I'm gonna get that. So this one is Major Arcana, Portraits of Witches in America by Frances F. Denny. And this one is a non-fiction about different witches in the United States, people that identify as witches. And so the author is a photographer and wanted to do this project where she reached out and was connected with all of these different people that identify as witches and said like, hey, do you want to be part of this project? And like, it will be like a picture of you, but you pick the setting, you pick your wardrobe, I'll just make sure the lighting is good, and then talk to me about what being a witch means to you. And it was lovely. I really, really loved this one. My favorite part of the whole thing was that because all of the people involved were allowed to pose themselves and choose their environment, I thought it was amazing that not a single one of them smiled in their pictures. And as a woman that has grown up in the United States that is constantly, it hasn't happened in a couple of years I think at this point, but was constantly told growing up to smile, or always asked by adults in my life, like, what's that face for? And I'm like, it's just my face. Like, I don't have to look super happy all the time. Like, I'm just existing. I just thought that was so wonderful. I immediately texted my best friend and I was like, you won't believe they weren't smiling. It's like so great. So I just thought this one was a lot of fun. And the only other book that I bought in August, and again, not one that I'm adding to my TBR because this is going to be for me and my husband, and it's a book for work, is this one, which is Dreyer's English by Benjamin Dreyer. It is an utterly correct guide to clarity and style. My husband and I both do a lot of writing for our jobs, and neither of us have degrees in English or writing. He's a chemist and I a social worker. So we've both written a lot, and we had formal training in undergrad and grad school with writing, but we could always get better. And so I got this as like a reference guide to just continue to help our brains get better with writing. And so we will both be flipping through this over the years, and it's just going to be a book that's like for both of us. So not like a super fun one that I wanted to include on my list. At the end of the month, then I went through, and all of the books that I brought in versus all of the books that I unhauled, I am sitting at 669 books total in my collection. 231 of those are unread, 438 are read, so that's firmly 65% of my collection is read, which I'm very, very thrilled with. I know at least one more book that I potentially want to unhaul, so we will see, but I've been thinking about getting rid of that book, so maybe. In August, things that I really loved. So this was something that I was doing in my book hauls, but I'm not really doing book hauls right now, so I figured I would just do it now. Things that I really enjoyed in August. In terms of podcasts, I've been loving 2 podcasts. One is an all-time favorite that I've been listening to for years and years, and that one is a podcast about history, and it's called You're Dead to Me, hosted by Greg Jenner, and it is from the UK, and he is a historian, and each episode is about a famous person or famous event in history with an expert that is telling him what happened, and then a famous comedian, and there's like a little quiz of like, so what do you know at the beginning, which is kind of like the things that we think we know, and then the expert talks about the life of that person or why the event happened and dispelling myths and stuff, and it's just wonderful. The vibes are always perfect. It's so enjoyable. I've listened to so many episodes. I have a couple episodes that I re-listen to all the time. There's an episode about Catherine the Great, so I've re-listened to that one like 10 times. There's one about Frederick the Great I've listened to like 10 times. The Atlantis episode is really good. I just listened to one about coffee. So that one, absolutely wonderful. One of my favorite podcasts of all time. And the second podcast is a new one. This one is called Hoax, and it is an author. I think they might both be authors. One of them, I have at least one of her books. And this one is all about famous hoaxes in history. And so the first episode ever was about the Coddingsley fairies, which was so fascinating. That was a picture that these 2 little girls took of what were supposed to be fairies way back in like the 1800s and maybe early 1900s, and they took it as like a haha prank, but the adults in their life believed it, so then they kind of doubled down on like, yes, this is real. So it was wild. I really enjoyed that one. The second episode just came out, and that one is The Boy in the Bubble, or The Boy in the Balloon, which I lived through, and so I'm not super thrilled about listening to that one, just because like I watched it happen in real time. Like, I know what the outcome is, but that's okay. I'll listen to that one anyway, because I would like to listen to all of the episodes and support this podcast. So anything I reference that I can list down below, I will try. I've really been enjoying that. In terms of video games, I've been just playing a lot of Dead by Daylight still. It's my most played game of all time at this point. I have almost 2,000 hours. And then I started replaying Borderlands 2 for the billionth time, because it's, again, one of my favorite games of all time. I've played through Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2 a few times. Borderlands 2 more than the first one. Played through the Telltale series that was Borderlands. Enjoyed that one. Did not enjoy the third Borderlands. Not interested in the fourth one. I'm just gonna double down and stick with the second one. Is still my favorite. So I started playing that again, and when I play Borderlands, because I've played it so many times and I know the story, I listen to audiobooks, which is like one of the few times that I actually listen to audiobooks. So I did start an audiobook I will talk about in my weekly vlogs. But yeah, just been enjoying video games. I also started some stuff in August, so if you've been watching my vlogs, thank you, appreciate you. In August, I decided that, my husband and I decided that we want to do kind of a low buy, no buy for the rest of the year, with some exceptions. We're both in the middle of getting tattoos, so that's gonna cost money. Obviously, those are things that have been planned for months and months and months. Vacations coming up, obviously, like we're going to Connecticut. I'm not gonna buy spooky books when we go to Connecticut, but just trying to be more mindful of that. So I've really been trying to utilize my library more, really trying to just read the books on my shelves, and get my number of unread books raised, like, or lowered, so that my read books is raised. And so what I've been doing is I have a wall calendar that's Bob's Burgers, because of course it is, and every day that I don't spend money on myself, I get a sticker, which is very satisfying. Part of that is I'm not really buying books, so there won't really be any book hauls. I will just do like little book hauls here and there in my vlogs. So like, I bought one book yesterday and I got rid of some other ones, so like, that's not enough for a book haul, so I will put that, you know, in my weekly vlog. If I get books from the library, they'll go in my weekly vlogs. But also part of that is doing this like impromptu Project Pan. If you've been seeing, this has become very popular again like in the world. Project Pan is basically just using up the things that you have instead of buying more or new things in terms of like beauty, healthcare, that kind of stuff. And so I'm doing this like impromptu Project Pan where I'm just trying to keep track of the things that I finish, because it's so satisfying to like use something up 100%. And so one of the things, I'm keeping a list on my phone. So one of the things that we finished up in August was a hand soap for the kitchen sink. We only get hand soaps from Bath & Body Works, like the foaming ones, only when they're on sale. So when they drop in price and they do those crazy sales of like 7 for $30, like things like that, that's when I get them and stock up. So we haven't needed hand soap in like years, but we also have, like, we always have really yummy smelling hand soaps. That's one thing about Bath & Body Works. Love Bath & Body Works. Really only worth it when stuff goes on sale. Otherwise, I think it's ridiculous pricing. But so we finished up a hand soap. So now I have a pumpkin scented one downstairs, which is just amazing. I had this little tub of body lotion that I got for Christmas from someone that I work with. Finished that up. I can't remember the last time I finished up an actual lotion, but like scraped out the bottom, used the whole damn thing. That was wonderful. We finished up a bag of treats for Zoe. She has tons and tons of treats because I accidentally signed up for a year of BarkBox without realizing it a while ago. So she gets a small BarkBox every month, which includes one small toy and one bag of treats and maybe like a third thing. But because of that, we've been doing a lot more training. I mean, we train her constantly just to make sure that like she doesn't forget stuff. She gets a lot more treats now because we have so many from these freaking BarkBox. I tried canceling. They said I couldn't cancel. I tried. I finished up a chapstick. Again, amazing. Like when you finish up a pen or a chapstick, you're like, oh my God, I am adulting. And so I finished up a Trader Joe's chapstick that I got in the Trader Joe's Beauty Advent calendar from last year. I finally finished it up, which was amazing. So now I'm using a chapstick that, here's the thing. I am notorious for thinking I don't have any chapstick and buying a shit ton and then being like, why did I do that? I had so much. So I have showed my husband like 30 unopened chapsticks. Like, you dumb bitch, pay attention. So I'm using this chapstick now that I'm like prioritizing because it was so damn expensive from Bath & Body Works that I didn't realize how expensive it was. And then she rung it up and I was like, oh shit. Well, okay. For $9 for a chapstick, are you kidding me? So I'm going to use that. Like, I'm using that shit up. So I'm using that because I finished the other one. And then the final thing that we finished up in August was a candle. So we are also terrible at thinking like, oh, we don't have that many candles. And then ending up having a lot of candles. So I get my candles from a couple different places. If you have like a TJ Maxx Home Goods in your area, they can be really good for candles. Their Yankee candles are not necessarily wonderful, but their DW Home candles are. Also, Village Candle, very good. A lot of candles at those stores, you'll find like they smell incredible, but then when you burn them, either the scent doesn't last, it's not as strong, or it smells weird when you're burning it. So it's kind of hit or miss with those candles, but you can typically get really like big delicious ones for like $6. Finished up one that was lavender from there that I really loved. I'm trying not to buy any more candles until we finish out a couple that we have. We have some from World Market that are also more expensive but not terrible, so we're using those up. Currently I have one in the hallway burning from Trader Joe's that I got last year that's a Honeycrisp apple candle. It smells incredible. Also, there's a local seller that makes black tea scented candles, and we have almost finished burning through one and we have a backup, but it's also one that we have gifted to people that they've also loved, because then your whole house smells like tea and it's amazing. So I treat candles the same way that I treat chapstick, where I'm like, I don't have any, and it's like, yes you do. Pay attention. So we'll just continue to try to save money, not spend money on things that I don't need when I have lots of books here that I want to read, and I have access to a couple different library systems. So August was a really good month. I enjoyed a lot of what I read, got rid of books that I wasn't interested in, and that's just going to kind of be my plan for the rest of the year, is continue to read what I own, get books from the library instead of automatically buying them. If I do buy a book, I have to read it immediately. I have to stop whatever I'm currently reading and read the book that I bought, which is what I'm doing with the book that I bought yesterday. I just wanted to do like a wrap up. This ended up being longer than I thought it would be, but that's okay. Let me know what you guys read in August. Did you read anything you really enjoyed? Are there any series or projects that you're doing for the rest of the year? And that's it. Thanks for watching.